Welcome everyone, my name is Brett Peterson. I'm the Director of Sales and Operations for North, Central, and South America. Thank you for joining today. As a point of introduction, Isograph has been creating and improving engineering software for over 32 years. Our headquarters is in the UK and we have an office here in beautiful Alpine, Utah. Now, I'd like to introduce you to Stephen Hayward. He'll be conducting our presentation today. He's our technical support here at Isograph, and a little bit of background about Stephen is has a background in chemical engineering. He's also done some work in the nuclear sector and chemical industry. And he's a tremendous resource here at Isograph to our customers, as well as those that are researching and looking at our software. And what I'd like to do is I'll be turning the time over to Stephen here just in one moment to give a high-level overview of one of our software modules. And Isograph carries a suite of software modules. We'll be covering today our AvSim, or Availability Simulation module. Now, if you find this training to be rather useful and you have additional questions you want to kind of dig in a little bit deeper, definitely reach out. I wanted to post some of our contact information here on the screen. You'll see Stephen Hayward, myself, as well as I have my sales manager, Clint Armistead, on the line as well. And so don't hesitate to reach out at any time. Now, what I'd like to do is turn the time over to Stephen. Let me just share my screen with Stephen so that he can showcase our software and kind of dive into it from there.
Okay, thanks, Brett.
Perfect, thanks.
So what we should now be looking at is that we're looking at an example project that we've constructed within our Availability Workbench tool. And what we're going to be looking at is we will be looking into the AvSim module. All of Isograph's tools, we offer a suite of different tools that can all be used for different outputs of different parts of your availability assessment of your process plant. But for now, we're going to be looking within the AvSim, and we'll be looking initially into one of the examples that we include within the software to see if the sort of thing that we can construct, the sort of results that we can get out of it, and then we'll just show you how easy it is to get started adding some of this information. And you can continue adding to these models as you complete your assessments. So here we can see that we have constructed a set of block diagrams showing various sets of redundancy with backup systems, as well as the systems in series. Each of these blocks can represent an entire subsystem. So if I step into my extrusion unit using the plus, we can look at our screw feeder system, and then we can see the failure modes of that screw feeder. We can navigate through our project using the options in the tree control, and we can look at various different aspects, all of which you will be able to construct on your own. Each block can be assigned various description fields, and we'll be looking into the failure modes and failure models that we use within the software that is the result of our analysis. If we just hit and run the analysis, the AvSim module is a simulation tool, so you can see that we press the green light button to process our simulation, and we can start to get some results out of it. As the nature of the simulation tool, we can assign costs to various aspects. So this can be used within our analysis to plan and investigate our total labor costs for our plant, as well as things like the costs due to spares and the consequence costs. Each system can be assessed for things such as its total downtime, as well as its mean availability. Because we are dealing with a simulation, we can also start to look at things like the capacity of certain components as well. Information can be found for each individual component. So for each failure mode within our system, we can find the total downtime, things like the number of outages, and many other pieces of information, as you can see. The consequences due to the downtime of our system can be defined, things like the total outage, and we can find the duration of that, and we can look at things again like the total cost due to that outage. One of the things that maybe we want to look at when we're considering this type of assessment is actually how we're handling our spares. Spares within a system can be very expensive. It may be difficult to know how many you want to store at any one time, and AvSim can build in this spare modeling, and we can optimize our system with regards to the number of spares that we need to use. As well, we can assign labor groups with, again, active time for each of these and the number of corrective tasks that they would need to complete. The sort of information that we'll be entering into this model once we have constructed it will be the failure models. But we'll show you this and how easy it is to get set up with some of these. To start my own project, all I have to do is select the new project icon from the toolbar. I'll go into File and select New Project. To start constructing my block diagram, first I must add a new system. I can do this again from the toolbar or from the Add menu. My page now appears here. I can open it to enter the ID and description of this system. But for now, we want to construct a set of our blocks. We can start adding blocks either through the icon on the toolbar or using the Add to Diagram and Block. If we hover over the diagram view to this side of the screen, we can see our cursor has a rectangle next to it. This shows that we are allowed to now add as many blocks as we want and in whatever arrangement. Once we're finished adding our blocks, we can do right-click, clear add mode, or clear the add mode from the icon on the toolbar. We need to construct the connections between our blocks with how our system works together. We can do this by using the add horizontal or vertical connection or adding a direct connection. These again can be accessed through the Add menu. Select this. Our cursor again changes to represent that we are now adding connections, and we can simply click and create the connections between the blocks. Clear the add mode again using the right-click menu. With regards to a parallel arrangement that could represent a set of dormant systems, perhaps this section of the plant requires and has 2 pumps, one of which is in standby, we need a single output for this. We can do this with what we call nodes. We can add a node to the diagram as simply clicking as we've done with the blocks, clearing the add mode, and then reconnecting the final connections. Objects within the diagram can be simply moved by simply selecting them and using the move icon, move cursor, to move it to where we want in the diagram. If we wish these blocks to represent subsystems, we can simply select a block, use the page down arrow, and now we can construct blocks within this subsystem. Again, this can be any arrangement that we wish, and it will simply depend on what system it is that you're modeling. I can navigate through my subsystems by using the plus icon, and I can return up to the page above a subsystem by clicking on the page up icon. If I wish to add information to this subsystem, we'll simply double click to open the block properties. Here I can add an ID, description, but for the case of a subsystem, my failure model is grayed out. I can at this point assign consequences, should I wish, or create new consequences or edit the currently assigned one. We'll come back to these in a little bit once we've added some failure models. If I wish to add a failure model, say for my pumps here that I'm imagining, double click, and I can create a failure model directly here and assign it to this block. Or I can go to my project tree select my failure models, right-click to either add a failure model type for categorization or simply add a failure model directly. I'll be presented with the failure model properties dialog, here where I can enter various information about it. Extra information can even be added within the Notes tab. If I move to the failure, this is where I can add things like the distribution that I will be using for my failures. We will be considering the mean time to failure as the primary input to our system for our failure modes of these components. The way that the simulation model works within AvSim is that we will sample from the distribution that we select with what's called Monte Carlo simulation in order to create the different simulations that we have that we then perform statistical analysis of to give us our final results. Because of the simulation environment and the types of distributions available to us, we can model complete bathtub curves within these failure models using what we have as the Weibull model. If we select this, we could manually enter the Weibull distribution parameters, or we can make use of the wizard to select the parts of the bathtub curve that we want to use and that our component shows, and we can modify and enter the values based on this wizard. If I enter sample values here, just to see how it behaves once we have filled in all of this information, simply enter the values, hit OK, and my Weibull distribution parameters will be shown here. I can also enable dormant failures, perhaps for redundant systems, and as well for my standby systems, we can control how those behave if they were operating in warm standby. My failure model now appears over here, and I wish to add it to some of my blocks. What I can do is I can select from the list, I can click and drag this, my cursor changes. When I hover over a block that I can assign the model to, my cursor again changes. Simply release the click and that model has been assigned. If I open the block, I can see that that model has now been assigned. Because I have created the model over here, this model can be assigned to as many blocks as I wish. So I can select and open this second block and select the failure model from the list. In addition to the mean times to fail for failure models, we want to know about its repair characteristics. If we open the failure model, the failure model properties, we can go to the maintenance tab. Initially, perhaps we only want to consider corrective tasks, but maybe we later want to consider planned or even inspection tasks that can be built into the software. For now, we'll just open the corrective task. And here we can enter the task duration. This will represent the mean time to repair for this task. We can assign any costs to this, add descriptions, other notes fields, or even dive into some of the more advanced features related to this task. Once we've created our task, given it a duration, perhaps we want to assign things like labor or spares or even equipment that we require in order to complete this task. I can do this directly from here. If I select assign a resource, I'll be presented with the list of all of the specific category that I've selected within my project. I can assign filters to look through this or directly create new labor categories and labor types from this menu. If I select the labor, I can enter an ID, how many of this labor we have available to us, and various other parameters if we have access to this information. If I select this and click on OK, that labor has now been assigned to my task. Similar can be done for the equipment, but we can also add spares. Here again, no spares are currently available. I can create a new spare. I can enter cost, volume, or weight if I wish. I can add the capacity at different levels of my spare. More information for these spares and what these levels mean can be found within the help menu. None of this information is required to be entered. It will purely be based on the level of detail you have available to you and what output you want to get from your simulation. If I was to enter various spare information, perhaps I want to optimize my spares holdings. On this tab, we can select the range at which we want to consider our optimization. But again, I will just leave these blank for now. My labor and spare had been assigned, and I'm happy with my task, so I will just simply hit OK. I've now constructed the corrective task for my failure model, and I can hit OK to save these changes. If I was to complete this for all of my blocks, I'm now finished constructing my model, and I can hit the Start Simulation icon to get some results. The simulation will progress, and once complete, you'll be presented with the results. As I mentioned, the complexity of your model can increase over time, adding different consequences to your system. We can consider phases of operation. Maybe at night, your maintenance requirements are different. Maybe less crews are available to you. And we can also consider entire groups of tasks all grouped together, and we can optimize those based on the task groups. But all of this is open to your imagination, and as much of it or as little of it can be used as you want to. So Brett, is there anything else that we would like to cover as a top level look through our AvSim module?
Yeah, one question that we seem to receive quite frequently is, if I have data maybe in Excel or another format, is it possible to import, and what are the export features coupled with some of the reporting features?
So as many of Isograph's tools, very extensive import and export features are available to us. If we go within the File menu, we can see the options for import and export. If I go just show you the export for now, but it's very similar, but in reverse to the import. Through the export dialog, I can select a file type that I wish to make use of. So I could export most commonly to Excel, but even to CSV or even XML files if I want to. I would browse to my location. Here, I've already created this as I have a export template that I have saved and just has been opened straight away. And we can see the sum of the tables that we can export and import into. Everything underlying within the database tables here can be accessed through both the export and the import. So if that data you had was already in a format that you wish to use, we can help you to make use of this import and export feature in order to get all of that into the software. Within the columns, again, each table has a number of columns we have access to that we can import into or export for further analysis. Once we're happy with my import or export, I would simply click the relevant button to complete that. Additionally, to the import and export features, we have very extensive reporting features available to us as well. If I go to the reports view, I'll be presented with a different view, and I can go to open some of the existing reports that we have included with the software if I was in the right location. All of these reports are included with the software itself, and all of them can be customized. If I attempt to open one that we might have some use for, if I look at the failure model properties, I can see and start to get some information out of these reports. If there was more information here, we would be able to see more complete tables of this. But because of the way that we're doing this with background SQL queries, you can create your own reports, or at the technical support side of Isograph, we can help you to create the required reports that you need. any of these reports, either diagram reports that we can construct or plot graph figures. All of these can be exported to various formats, including straight to Word via their file menu, PDF, or in the case of something where there is data available to us, such as this type of report, we can export these reports to a CSV format. So I think that just about covers some of those. Are there any other questions?
No, I don't believe so. I really appreciate you, giving us that overview of the AvSim module. I did want to once again post our information here. You also have the option, if you're currently looking into Isograph and wanting to see if this might be a module that would be useful, really for that system availability and throughput modeling, make sure to download our free demo. And here's the address, or you can go to isograph.com, click on products, and you'll see availability workbench there. Really appreciate everyone's time today. Thanks so much, Stephen, for giving us that overview, and I look forward to hearing from everyone. Thanks so much. Have a great day, guys.